Hello, my name is Reese Jones and welcome to my MIDI map settings for the Confetti Christmas Party 2023. So first we have our three main clips, the two pyramids, the square and the triangle. What these help us do is create a solid baseline for our Resolume show which we'll be using. And then the next we have some secondary clips which help add some flair, some jazz, some detail to what we're doing. And then we have some optional tertiary clips. The next thing I'm going to do is run you through the shortcuts where you'll see all of the different clips and effects labeled, including inverted colors. On the wheels for the MIDI, I have them set up to I can change how fast the show goes, for example, by turning one of the nozzles, as well as adding other effects like a polar collider effect and a mirror effect and also a go effect, which kind of makes the whole show go kind of crazy. It's sometimes you want crazy because it's a rave. Now let me show you some of the effects in action. So first we have the polar collider effect, followed by the cube tiles effect coming right up, and of course the strobe. You can actually merge each effect together by holding down each button of the MIDI. So if I wanted a cube tile and a polar collider, and then I could do both at the same time. I could do goo and I could do strobe at the same time. And because they're all on the MIDI, I actually get to change the clips halfway through. So I can hold down effects and change clips at the same time, which makes the whole thing super easy to do. And then obviously color changes for every single part of the MIDI. Obviously probably mark those down if you wanted to do it yourself, but I've just kind of got them memorized in my head. So red, green, blue, yellow, purple, and then obviously you can also invert the color of the clip as well, which I found really nifty, because when you mix it with the first crystal of the second column, then it makes the whole show it fully inverts it. It's really cool. So I ended up using that a lot through the show. And what I also found out was if you mix the RGB effect with the colorize effect, you actually couldn't see the rest of the effects from the RGB. So what actually ended up happening was that it would instead mimic two of the different, it would mimic the same clip except next to each other in three different ways. So it was just layered itself, which was also another really effect. So obviously that's the speed effect that I was showing you, so I can turn that down as well. So I can turn that down really slowly and up really fast. Obviously, it helps when you're trying to change the tempo. I try to change the tempo of a song. One of the most important things to do when you're operating for a show is to try and time each change that you make to the beat. So on beat, on tempo, when lyrics kick in, you've got to be very aware and just try and stay in the flow and try and fully focus on what's in front of you, which can get a little difficult when you're focusing on trying to keep in beat and also looking at what your lighting operator's doing. So you've got to have good communication, good focus, and just match the lights. Because if your lighting operator, for example, changes to red, and you're still on your blue tab, you're going to be very confused when you look up and you're on blue and they're on red, and it's just two very contrasting colors that just don't really work together, and it's taking away from the show more than not. But in a clip like this, for example, you can see that I have a lot of freedom because there's a lot of colors being used, and then I'm communicating with my lighting operator. We're saying, oh, we're changing to red, so we change to red together, and then we change back to blue. So this is just live in the show. But so you match the lights, you make sure that it contrasts, or you make sure that it works well together. You make sure that you're not causing too much like just eyesore really. And if you manage to do that correctly, then you'll be able to have certain moments where the lights shine and certain moments where the projections shine, where the VFX can like really take over and have a big effect on like whoever's stood in the center of the room being surrounded by it all. In the end, with good communication and lots of planning, you can make a simple show like this be able to have a lot of different variations just by mix matching all of your different effects, all of your different screens. It's always good to have scenes programmed in, so if I like press U on my keyboard, like it's so you don't always need to use the MIDI. You can sometimes use the keyboards, because what I was doing, I was pressing U to select a scene, and then that scene would play, and then I could edit and VJ that scene however I wanted without having to individually click each button. But in the end, there's always things that you can improve. For example, I used too many blues when there was already blues as like the main light source, because as projections you're usually a secondary thing, so you've got to try and be that secondary color, like orange, purple, green, almost anything could have worked with this. But if I chose to use something different other than blue, then I would have been able to be seen more. And then here, next, I wasn't paying attention, and I stayed on blue for way too long than I should have before swapping to yellow. So here they are. I was getting too focused in using my different effects, my color collider, my goo, all of it. But then eventually just, realized. Then next, I also limited myself way too much with the amount of clips I used. I had enough to make the show work, but I didn't have enough to keep the variety going all night, when I could have been doing something different constantly. Now that the night's over, I can kind of understand when people say you've got to be adapting more to the show. So the night went really well for starters. There was lots of people coming in. I wish I could have recorded more, but my camera died. But yeah, you've always got to be adapting. You've always got to be understanding the genre of the music and how to maximize your projections without going too overboard. Because sometimes like you want to strobe, you want to use certain effects, but you've got to try and hold back until the perfect moment, as well as just keeping on the ball with the colors and the light. And other than that, I mean, there's not much to it. It just goes hand in hand. Mix your effects, mix your clips, just do it all to the best of your ability. Don't be afraid to program things into the keyboard if you find it easier. I ended up using the keyboard for about half the show, but the MIDI is also really good.